Hello, Corey. How's it going?
Going well. Happy to be here. Good to meet y'all. Looking forward to this conversation. I was looking you guys up, doing some background on you guys for a while, and I think this is gonna turn out to be a fun conversation.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, considering you was joined crypto, I think in 2013, if I'm not mistaken, based on our research, it's gonna be a long one as well. So I think before we get into like everything else, uh, I ask everyone this question, and I want to ask this question to you as well. Like, why? What got you into crypto? Like, what was the idea behind you joining crypto? Because I mean, it's a whole world out there, and crypto. We have seen, especially in these few years, like the last few years, that it can be extremely brutal. So why not just choose another industry to basically build in?
Oof, I might take the whole time with this one. I'm originally a PhD in computational physics, and I have always been fascinated with computation. And my PhD was in like high performance computing, so like solving really hard computational problems was something I was interested in. And then I've always kind of been, I don't know, a deconstructionalist, and then I want to take things apart and then put them back together with as little pieces as possible, right? And by happenstance, I saw like a TED talk about Bitcoin when I was doing my graduate studies, and I was fascinated by it. I really liked the computational problem it was solving, like the Byzantine generals problem, and how it solved it was elegant to me. And so I researched it. I wanted to understand how it works. I wanted to understand like the ins and outs of it. I wanted to see like the model of like how it could break down. And then I started playing with it, and then I learned about money and the weirdness that is money. And I thought that was interesting that we built a real, what I would consider sovereign internet money. We never had that before. This is a new thing. It's like a fundamentally new thing for me. And then I just got lost in it. And then I mined because the best way to learn is through doing, and I wanted to mine and understand it and play with it. And then as I got more competent in it, I became more fascinated with it. And then eventually I started a podcast and met a bunch of people and had great conversations. Um, that's the Bitcoin podcast for some shameless self-plugging. And and I don't know, I really enjoyed it. And then I left academia because the problems I was solving, while they were interesting, no one cared about them. And this was this like huge industry that I thought was like, well, this is like an additional exponential technology that's going to take off, and it's doing it in a way that I care about. And it's like giving power back to the people. And I really like cryptography and information and like decentralized systems. And so I got a job doing data science and blockchain education, and then security. And then I got a job at Status after they did their ICO, and then I was their lead security engineer and CSO. And I don't know, I just kept doing it because like the system exploded, and it was always trying to build things in a way that I like, which is in adversarial settings. Just trying to build things that are resilient to people taking them over. And I like that's just like kind of like a core part of my being is like, how do we build systems that aren't asymmetric in power?
Yeah, and I resonate with that because when we first joined crypto, we also liked the whole philosophy behind it. And given that you've seen basically the most important cycles of this space, and you've seen crypto evolve into the thing that it is today, I have a question for you. Do you like it? Have you like predicted that this would happen? Because it doesn't feel the same. I mean, I get nostalgic about everything, but most importantly, I get nostalgic about back then when we first joined crypto. It's not the same, and we can talk all day about ideologies and institutions and so on, but it just doesn't feel the same. And I want to hear your take on this because, if I'm not mistaken, you've been quite critical about the institutionalization of crypto as well.
Yeah. No, I don't like it. But it's also something that I'm not surprised with. And it's not like the ideology is gone. Just like for instance, like when we started the Bitcoin podcast, our mantra was like adoption is the only thing that matters. We were like, oh, we're gonna take over. We're gonna like replace the banks. We're gonna give people power, and ownership of their own financial data and things like this. But like that's not the adoption we got, because it's really hard to do. It's really hard to use. It's cumbersome. Using a wallet, taking responsibility for your own private keys, like understanding what you're signing, understanding what chain your tokens are on, weird dynamics in DeFi, like all this stuff is hard. And people don't like hard because they have to learn something new and change their behavior. And so the adoption we got was like an effort of scale and convenience. And a lot of what we built seems to be, in terms of adoption, the same thing we already had, just on the internet, right? It's traditional finance on the internet. And so like, that isn't what I signed up for, but it's obviously like the way things went because that's what people wanted. We haven't yet convinced them of the thing that I got in here for and why they need it. I think we're getting there. I think people are starting to wisen up to like, oh, this isn't anything different. And I'm still not getting the feeling that I want, which is like something better than what I already have. And that I'm still hopeful that we can still do that.
Yeah, and the thing about this institutionalization of crypto, in my opinion, I think it was inevitable, as you said. You're not surprised, but I also think that we were asking for it in a way. I mean, maybe not you specifically, but the majority of the industry. I remember back in 2020 and 2021 when there was like this news of a new institution doing something related to crypto. Everyone was like fired up, right? Everyone was hyped up, and I think like the whole industry has this identity crisis, and that's what I want to touch upon when it comes to privacy as well, because I think anonymity and privacy in crypto are like musts, right? We must have those. But how realistic is that? Like, random people don't care about it, do they? I mean, if you ask my parents, like, do you care that your data is being sold, like, from your social media accounts illegally to different algorithms or whatever, for people to build and basically enslave you digitally, let's say, they wouldn't care, right? And personally, I try to say that I care and I try to stand behind the movement, but at the end of the day, like, it's really hard to be idealistic in today's world, right? So how would you like convince someone to fight this war? I mean, I see it as a war. Like, it's not a direct war maybe, but like, how would you convince someone to stand on those values?
That's a hard one. I don't think so. For one, like this is the same. It plays back through what I experienced while doing security. Is that like people only really care about security when their security is breached, when it personally impacts them. And unfortunately, when that happens, it's usually too late, right? And so, as builders, we have to be the ideological ones and build things that don't give them an option to have these features. It's built into it's built into the substrate, the infrastructure of the things that are built on top of it. And that way, they are already protected, and they have to then opt out of it if they want to, which is a decision from them, right? They're doing it with consent versus without consent because it was given to them that way. And privacy is the exact same thing. Like this transparency of everything that we use today leads to a surveillance ecosystem and market that the only way to, like, the easiest way to profit off of this is to aggregate data and take advantage of it, and then the user becomes the product. So people aren't building for users and what the users need. They're building to take advantage of those users, and that's because of the substrate that we have. And so, like, I'm less convinced we need to be trying to sell privacy and anonymity, but building a substrate that doesn't really give them an option, but forces them to consent into the things that they're selling. And in some cases, allows them to profit off of it as opposed to someone else who's just aggregating it because it's the cheapest way to take advantage of them. And I think that's a lot of what we're trying to do here is like, and unfortunately, you can't just like bolt it on afterwards. You can't add privacy to a system that isn't private very well. If you can, it's very much more difficult because like the life cycle of a transaction is many steps. And if you only think about the blockchain itself, that's like settlement. That's the end of the life cycle usually, where like almost all of the surveillance and profiteering is done before you get there. So like, who cares you have a privacy solution on the blockchain? You've already sold everything, or you can go after the things that are using the privacy solution. And so like, in our opinion, you have to secure the entire transaction lifecycle and make it private such that the user has the option to disclose when it's appropriate, as opposed to like something that was sold down the river before they even had a chance to like have an option.
Yeah, that's the thing. And the thing about what Atis said is that people did ask for this mass adoption. They did ask for all of this institutional money to come in. It's like asking for rain and receiving thunderstorms and thunderstorms with a lot of narratives and political wars and so on and so forth. But we don't want to get deep in the rabbit hole just yet. But yeah, now I want to ask about logos and the whole philosophy behind it. And you mentioned that you've pivoted from academia, but I believe that you basically had to unlearn a lot of stuff from academia in order to achieve what you guys have achieved and to start building logos and all of the products that it comes with.
I mean, I don't know if I've unlearned a bunch of stuff from academia. I just don't really use it in the way I learned it. And I've come full circle in this opinion that like institutions are what really matter. But like, you need to build good ones because the institutions are the things that like withstand generations and the decisions of generations that like maintain like the core ideas and the complex thoughts and then train people to then continue doing that over time throughout the generations. And so you need to like actually rebuild institutions, and they're the things that hold the whole thing together. But you need an infrastructure that allows for that so that they're not capturable, right? And so like what we see is a bunch of captured institutions. And I think the idea is to rebuild those in a way that they're uncapturable. And so like when you look at like the ideas of like what we've been trying to do with blockchains is build technology that is resilient or resistant to capture. Like they're a little more resilient to like this asymmetric power dynamics where a few people can control the whole thing. And we've learned a lot of lessons over the decade and a half or so that we've been doing this on like how to do that well with technology. And like maybe now we're getting to a point where we actually start to build something that can impact society and rebuild institutions. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, so how exactly do you guys want to do this? How do you want to come about and do that? Since, as we said, institutions are coming in, but they're built in a way that, they're easy to capture. And like, I don't know, we want to be the pessimistic guy in this talk that we're having right now, but I think like every institution in the world and everything in the world right now really can be bought in today's mindset. Like the majority of people, they are losing their ideals, and I don't have a doom talk right now, but it's just like that's how it feels, right? Everyone you talk to and you want to build with them and you want to do something interesting, good, and I don't know, better than something that already exists, they ask, oh yeah, what's in it for me, how much money I'm gonna get, or they present you with an offer that includes like monetary value, which is I mean, I totally get it, it's a business, but we're trying to build something that has a different kind of value, not just financial. So I think like, how do you guys wanna change that?
A lot of our philosophy is don't try and fix it, build something in parallel that gives people options in what they build for themselves that's purpose built for what they need versus trying to like leverage what already exists that doesn't work for them or doesn't care about them or takes advantage of them. And you need to build those things in such a way that they're not capturable. They're not easy to just like break and take control over. So you need resilient technology that gives people the tools they need to build communities and parallel institutions and things like that work in their niche areas, and then foster those and let them grow. And hopefully what you get is like emergent, resistant institutions that work for people, like actual people and their needs, versus like these things that we have that are so detached from the actual people that they're not serving them. And so starts with building technology that's provably resistant in real world scenarios, and then going out and learning the types of problems people have and helping them build things that service them the way they want to be serviced, and then fostering that growth, that community growth. And I don't think you're ever going to get to a point where you can have this societal change unless you do both of those things simultaneously. You build technology that can't be captured and serves people, and then you understand people's problems and then go help them do it. And then this iterative process of doing it over and over and over again lets things grow, because like big problems come from like big communities. And so you have to battle test these things, iteratively let them grow and prove them out. With the key focus is actually helping people and their problems and serving them.
As economist myself, I do blame economists for a lot of these things, because they tend to put statistical value to almost everything, but they haven't really put statistical value when it comes to privacy. And you see all of these projects and new features, for example, that have surveillance tracking in the back end that people are not even aware of. But if you were to ask people how much would you pay to have your data protected and be basically anonymous on the internet, I don't want to bet, but like I can guarantee that the majority would pay something basically to do that. So yes, you can also monetize that side of privacy as well. Which brings me to my next point, which is AI proliferation. And this has basically scaled a lot of good things on the world, but also has scaled a lot of the bad things as well, which is in this case the surveillance aspect. I mean, Claude and ChatGPT basically know everything about me, because I'm the type of person that asks my ChatGPT, for example, about the most minor inconveniences, basically. So it does know a lot of things about me. Yes, and I'm the kind of person that still vouches for total privacy and so on and so forth, but yet I'm also caught lacking in terms of this side of the surveillance aspect. So I want to hear your take about AI. I know you do have some you did have some pieces regarding AI where you praise the fact that AI does help in terms of increasing efficiency and so on, but is there any hidden narratives when it comes to AI that people are not necessarily aware of, and that they're not basically aware that they're part of, not just in surveillance and privacy, but other issues as well?
That's a weird one. That's a big one. That's like, because I'm fascinated by AI for a multitude of reasons, like how it works, this emergent property of like it actually being able to reason, how they scale, the environmental and social implications of hyperscalers, how people use them and leverage them and stop thinking, or if used correctly, think better and become more efficient. And what massive amount of control these hyperscalers actually have. And then from that control, the potential to manipulate society in a way that is so like not obvious. The answers they give you, because you're using it as a search engine, you're asking it about everything. You're asking about how things work, why things are, and it is just giving you an answer. And you don't know where that answer comes from. And it comes from the way it's trained and post-trained and then served and the rules that the provider gives you. And so like the first time in history, we have a company that controls like the entire information pipeline, from aggregation to training to serving. And it's all proprietary. And you don't know anything about how they do it. And that is a very scary thing. In previous, like we had multiple different institutions and gates and audiences that controlled different parts of this pipeline, so they had some levels of checks and balances. We don't have that anymore, and they're not, and they're like transnational companies. They're massive, they're huge, so they're not subject to any real single jurisdiction either. And it's like that's just a very scary yet unproven situation that we find ourselves in. And so AI has a tremendous potential to help society become better, but only if it's built in a way that has those checks and balances still there. And we haven't quite figured out how to do that. But I don't think hyperscalers are the way to do it. But in that vein, we haven't quite figured out how to grow these things so that they're competent enough to actually do the work we want them to without number go up in terms of how big these things need to be and the resources required to train them to make them better. And so, like, we don't know yet, but there's potential for a lot of scariness, but there's also potential for a lot of greatness. So, like, I'm trapped in the middle because, like, from a computational point of view, it's fascinating. I love it. It helps me be better at what I do. It helps me learn in the manner I like learning about anything. But it also makes people dumb and stop thinking if they don't leverage it that way, right? And I don't know, like, we'll see.
Yeah, I saw a tweet, or I don't know if it was a tweet or a LinkedIn post. Someone said, "Don't outsource your thinking to AI," and I think I've been doing that.
Yeah, because like, there's a lot of
Everything.
things in life where thinking is the point. Like, the hard part
Exactly.
of thinking and struggling with an idea and complexity is the point of the exercise. And when you offload that, you stop having the faculty to think.
I think you just stop being human, really. I mean, after some time, like after a decade, let's say, no one is thinking; they're just outsourcing that to AI,
Mhm.
and like you forget to think. The only thing that makes us human. But yeah, I don't want to go like down that rabbit hole yet, as Dre said earlier. So you mentioned that you're fascinated by AI, but like, how do you think that we can um, basically stay decentralized in a sense and stop these giants from taking over the world and doing what they're doing right now? Like, do you think like local compute would be the answer to like this sovereignty, like that we can have over AI at this point,
I
or
think so.
are
I
we
think
too
we'll find.
far from that?
I think we'll find ways to decentralize the training process, the inference process, the data ownership and aggregation process that then is served to train the models themselves. Will diminish the size of the models such that the level of reasoning needed can fit on your devices that you can afford as a consumer. You don't require massive data centers to then just run inferencing. And so it doesn't become this like global scarcity problem on who gets to own the machines that actually runs these things. It becomes something you can run on your laptop or phone or computer because we get better at understanding how to do this in a way that's meaningful. And then when that's possible, you're no longer subject to the hyperscalers because that's the only way to do it. Right? If it's the only way to do it, you have no room for exit. This is something I've talked about with crypto too, right? It's like I don't mind Coinbase because they're built on a decentralized platform. If I don't like what Coinbase is doing with my Bitcoin, I take my Bitcoin out of Coinbase and put it on blockchain or whatever the token is because I have that option to exit. If you don't have that option to exit, then the company can do whatever they want because you can't do anything about it. So when you're thinking about any of this type of stuff, namely, like we're talking about AI, like you need a place to exit where you can still do the thing you want to do, but not subject to the company. And when you have that dynamic, the company then has to care about their users because they can just leave. And that's a very important thing to offer people is the option for exit. And to minimize that barrier such that they're there because they want to be there and not because they have to be there.
Yeah, and I think I mean, I totally agree with everything you said, but what I want to know, like, from your perspective, what role does blockchain play in the future, of course, when it comes to having these local local AIs that we can all run for ourselves while keeping everything private? Because I think there's been a few blockchain solutions that are like preserving data in a way that's way more efficient than Bitcoin's blockchain does, if you know what I mean, while keeping every benefit that Bitcoin has. I think one was Mina blockchain, was back in 2021. I'm not sure if they even exist anymore, but I know I read about them back like 5 years ago. So I know the concept exists. I don't know if it's being like practiced yet, but do you think blockchain can do that? Do you think like any distributed ledger technology can do that while remaining private? Because I mean, you're the tech guy in this call, so I wanna hear it from you.
Oh, for sure. And that's what Logos is trying to do. Like blockchain plays a very important role when building decentralized and resilient applications. And that is namely providing an area for digital scarcity, like meaningful digital scarcity where I can give you something on the internet and you know that I don't have it anymore. And it does that through like total ordering, global total ordering. You can all agree on what happened. And in an era of AI where you can manufacture anything, like trustless verifiability is a really important thing. I know this happened. I know I own this thing. And the thing that backs up that knowledge is cryptography, not somebody telling me that that's the case. And so having these systems that operate in incredibly adversarial scenarios that give me confidence that something is mine and verifiable and that something actually happened that I know of and I can prove it, with the addition of something like zero knowledge, that means that I can prove it happened the way it's supposed to happen without anyone else knowing what the actual details of that thing are, is amazing. I get total ordering, verifiability, permissions, control on a decentralized system that can't be taken over. And privacy, like, that's a very important thing to have when you want to like work with people you don't trust. Or build communities that can't be captured because they don't have the information to do so. And so like blockchains serve that role. You don't put data, real data, on blockchains. The data on a blockchain only serves as a way to prove that something happened for the lifetime that you need to know that it happened, right? Once it's there, you can offload it somewhere else through like checkpointing and things like this, archiving, because it's all cryptographically secure. You can prove through the linking of a blockchain that thing's never got changed. It is immutable. And so we have other solutions like local storage for like where you put it to keep it there for a long time, where big data stays that can still maintain private. And so what's things have lacked in blockchain with respect to privacy, like we have zero knowledge to hide things in the ledger itself. But like the way in which you come to that agreement through consensus and mining has always had information leaks in it too, which then has led to people being co-opted, coerced, money stolen, so on and so forth. And so like it's definitely, in our opinion, that you need to add privacy in the lowest level of the stack as possible, which is at where people are running nodes. I don't want to know your IP address. I don't want to know how much stake you have. I don't want to know what influence you have in the mining process, but I'd like to know that the mining process is fair and verifiable and not co-opted. So you can do all that with ZK2 and what we call the blend network, which is a way to like not only like hide who the proposer of a given block is, but also the network forensics that happen when you submit the block to the network, right? Like not only can we now on the testnet show you that you can't see who proposed, but they did it correctly and it was fair, but also when you look at the network on how that block got propagated throughout, you can't see anything there either. So it's really difficult to then co-opt the agreement process, which is what people are doing now when you look at the systems that exist today that have privacy solutions on the blockchain. Like, oh, we can't see what the blockchain says? Cool, we'll go after who's actually processing the transactions and get them to stop. So if you want these things to actually exist in the real world and be resilient, you have to have privacy at the lowest level. And we've done that. We think we've done that. We need to battle test it and try it and scale it with logos.
But how do we keep bad actors away? I mean, the whole pretext behind surveillance state is because privacy basically enables bad things to happen because there's no way for authorities to track, for example, criminals. And that's where the whole misconception behind privacy came from, basically. So do you think it's realistic to think that we could have a world where we have privacy, but at the same time be safe from bad actors in a way that we don't trade off the very concepts that made it possible to be private in the first place?
No, you're going to have bad actors. We have bad actors today. There'll always be bad actors. The argument to make is whether or not the good that you're making through providing this technology outweighs what those bad actors are doing. And as ethical people, like I've always made this argument too, like in my opinion, you want the good guys, the ethical people, to be making this technology because bad actors. Like, I've given talks in different conferences, and most of my through line is like assholes are everywhere. When a community gets to a certain size, you meet the assholes because they're everywhere. They exist. They will try and take advantage of systems. They will do bad things, and so you try to build things that minimize their effect and grow networks that keep them from being able to do what they'd like to do or asserting asymmetric control, because they're always going to be there. And you want the ethical people building this stuff so that when bad actors exist, the good people aren't trying to catch up to the methodology of their bad acting. And so that's what we're doing. And you're not going to get away from it. But you can always help the people trying to stop bad actors when you know the ways in which you can do bad things. But like, we're building technology that minimizes their ability to do stuff. Like, in order to do a lot of the stuff that people would like to do, they need information. If you don't provide them with information, it's impossible to get it. It's much more difficult to do the thing they want to do. If it means taking advantage of someone else, especially it's like surveillance. And so, in my opinion, like, no, you don't get rid of it, but you build systems that are very resilient to them. And then you help the communities that use this technology root out the bad acting in the ways that still exist. Because at the end of the day, like, it's all for humans. It's humans on the either side of this technology. And humans make mistakes, and you can catch people doing bad things, not by manipulating the system itself, but by looking at the humans.
Now I wanna talk a bit about the concept of parallel societies. I guess what I'm interested to know is, what do you think is the most concrete evidence, basically, that proves that parallel societies are real and not just metaphorical in a way?
That'd be a question for Jared. That's his whole shtick, everything he believes in. But I can give you a couple. I'll give you a couple ideas. I mean, we have special economic zones already, which are like financially incentive working situations of a parallel society outside of like regular jurisdictions. We have weird nations out in the ocean that do weird things because, you know, like traditional piracy is still like, how do you build jurisdictions in jurisdictionless places? We've seen parallel institutions throughout history stand up to regimes and win, not through violence. It's hard for me to push my ideas on this because I've always focused on the technology of these things. I like the idea of people having the right to exit, spending their time in systems that benefit them and don't take advantage of them. Jared's book, Farewell to Westphalia, is a really good example of like all of the things that we've seen as parallel institutions in history working out, being economically viable, and in some cases producing big markets that are worth pursuing. It isn't just this like idealistic social movement. It's also ripe with business opportunity that serves people. But I don't spend my time looking at that these days. I'm looking forward to seeing what emerges when we build technology that gives people the right to build it themselves.
Now I want to look toward the future when it comes to logos a bit. You guys, I mean, you have these three products, right? Like the logos, messaging, storage, and blockchain. But what do you think is like missing from your stack at the moment? Because you guys have been building it. I think this the unification of the names and the brand and everything happened back in 2025, late 2025. So like, what's the next step? What should everyone listening, what should like everyone excited for what's going on with logos expect?
I mean, we have test nets. We have the majority of the 4 pieces working. We have execution environments with DEXs. We have private atomic swaps. We have all of the main pieces working. We just need to harden them, test them, and grow them, and get users to build on top of them. Like the best thing you can do is go download Basecamp and run a node, and then submit a bug report, or try to break it, or build things on top of it. And we have kind of Lambda prizes and RFPs for people who want to build, so that they're part of building this thing with us, and it isn't just like us building it and throwing it at people. It's a community effort, and like the best thing to happen. But in my opinion, the best metric for success is someone building something people use that we didn't plan for, right? And you can do that. You can start doing that today. by downloading Basecamp, looking at the website, figuring out all the opportunities for building that will, in some cases, pay you for, because things need to be on the blockchain that we want people to use, and we don't have all the time and resources to build them. So we have like requests for proposals on the things we'd like built. You can go do that. And that's where we want people to help build this thing. We want to grow a community of people who care about it and help us battle test it and grow it. So you can just run a node. It's stupidly simple to run a node. You download Basecamp and click run node, and you can run it on a Raspberry Pi. And we have a number of things in the pipeline to make that even easier, so that not only have to run it on your own machine, you can deploy it to a Raspberry Pi in your house and leverage that in a safe and secure way, or use someone else's node in a safe and secure way, because we have really, really, really good light client protocols that let you know that the data they're giving you is the right data. So there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline that makes it grow and scale the way it's supposed to, while making it very simple to use on your phone or home device.
So you're telling me that through the Lambda Prize, I can go on, build Logos Markets, which is a prediction market from today. We just branded it, and you guys will fund me.
Is that your proposal lands? Yes, we'll fund you.
I mean, you have to help me here. I'm talking. You have to help me somehow.
Submit a proposal. Run the thing. The proposals are very good requirements on what needs to be met. I help build the framework for evaluating requirements. So that when people build something, they know what they're building against, and they can say it does all the things that you said, right? And those are robust. So you can go submit proposals. You understand how to build stuff, and like we want that. We want people to do that, and we have money allocated to do that, because you can't do this alone. You need people to build on this stuff and then have stake in the network and care about growing it with you. And so this is a method in which we do that.
Yeah, so if we zoom out a little bit, so looking at, okay, let's say 10 years from now, without thinking of PR metrics and, TVLs and all of these other metrics that have oversaturated my LinkedIn feed, what do you think will be the value that will make you say, okay, we did the right thing with Logos? And what would be the thing that would make you say, okay, maybe we didn't do the right thing with Logos? Like, what would be that metric for you?
The metric for me is large-scale communities are leveraging the Logos tech stack for some institution they need to maintain themselves as a community, whether it be like a land registry, a local market, a voting mechanism in which they, do something in their community with that's large and meaningful. That's what I want to see. I want to see real impact. I don't want to see another DeFi protocol that obscurely moves money around and makes money for someone that doesn't do anything else but move money around. Like, I want to see real impact on societies. That's what makes me say, okay, cool, this works, right? And people are curious and build new things in which new types of communities can be built. New types of, when I say community, I mean that in the most general sense. Parallel societies, right? Parallel society, in my opinion, is just a community of people, like-minded people who've opted into that community because of shared ideals. And as those things grow, you need bureaucracy to hold it together. And the technology can serve that bureaucracy through institutions that provide services like registries, who owns what, like fair markets, like voting mechanisms. And so like, that's what I want to see. That means like we've done something. And for the ability for communities to do this themselves in the manner in which they wish to do it, not be kind of shove their needs into some rigid structure that doesn't quite serve them very well, isn't what I want to see. I want to see like a proliferation, a Cambrian explosion of like new ways to do this that work for different communities. That's like the dream. And then the failure is we're exactly where we are today. We have, regulated stablecoins that don't serve people.
Yeah, and now like I want to talk about Blend, Because I know you mentioned the nodes. I know you mentioned it's like really, really easy to set everything up. So I know Blend is relatively new when it comes to logos. So what's your plan on like growing the number of people actually adopting the Blend nodes? And because it's not easy. I mean, I know I'm sounding really pessimistic, but it's not easy to grow in this current market. And I know you've been here way before me, but I think it's getting even brutal now, even more brutal. I mean, as an industry, right? So how do you plan to do that?
This is actually like, I'm glad you asked this question. That's a really good question because it's something that I've always been concerned about. There's like anonymity sets, size of the anonymity set is where privacy exists. And there's this bootstrapping problem. Like, how do you get that set? How do you maintain the set? And so the original version of Blend, I'll give you a little like kind of short high level overview, is like when someone wins the raffle of like I get to submit a block to the next blockchain, to the blockchain within Cryptarchia, which is our consensus mechanism. They have to like send it to the network. And then, like I said, that gives off information. If you're looking at the network and doing forensics, over time you can de-anonymize who's got what stake by how often they're submitting blocks, because it's a stake-weighted proposal mechanism. The more stake you have, the more often you can submit proposals. So over time, you can de-anonymize who has what, and you can see their IP. So you can go to their house. We don't want that. So Blend gives the people the opportunity to submit it through it's inspired by mixed nets, but not quite a mixed net. They put it through this network that then has random delays, goes through a series of delays, and each section of the delay doesn't know who the previous one was. So it has like a number of like privacy preserving mechanisms such that you don't know who's submitting what if you're looking at the network. Okay, cool. But like all of the messages you're sending are block proposers. You need cover traffic. You need to make every message look identical. And not every message is a block proposal. So you can't differentiate a block proposal from just some random message. But cover traffic doesn't really do anything. That's just like extra bandwidth. And so I'm comfortable talking about this. This is something that we haven't talked about yet, but it's on the roadmap called empowering. And it's a really neat way to solve a lot of problems. And I'm not going to go too far into it, but effectively you can now, and I don't know. The details haven't been hammered out on the economics of this and how we scale it, but I'm writing a blog post now that will go into options there. Like you can now do proof of work as a new node. You can just run proof of work to then hit a certain threshold and then generate pool from funds that allow you to use the Blend network. So you gain entry to the Blend network for basically running proof of work on your device, and you get funds that fund your first transaction. So what this does is it incentivizes people to submit a transaction from a new account that they don't have to fund from anywhere else. They just run proof of work. That keeps the anonymity set alive. And you can tune this automatically, much like the difficulty adjustment works for Bitcoin, by making sure the anonymity set of Blend is exactly where it needs to be. That counteracts actual traffic. And so you're providing cover traffic through actual transactions of new entries by people just running proof of work. And it's this interesting way of adding proof of work in that gives you the anonymity set that you want. So you have privacy at the base layer that doesn't oversaturate or like overpower the funding mechanism of how consensus works and how like new coins come into inflation. It's this really interesting, cool way of giving us the privacy we need while also solving some of the problems that haven't been solved yet. Like, how do you bootstrap a node? How do you get to a point where like you can start participating in proof of stake, Cryptarchia, without funding it from some other source, which effectively doxes you, or signs it up from some exchange, which then doxes you in surveillance, right? And so like, you want to make sure people can enter the network like you would do in regular Bitcoin by doing proof of work. You can enter and exit as you want without having to fund a thing. And this is a new way to do that while adding to the way in which we give privacy to the network. It's really exciting. you look at the version 3, you'll have probably the first version of this implemented into the testnet. But like the documentation on this isn't out yet. I'm writing a technical article that looks at some of the economics of this, but it's really interesting, and I haven't seen it done anything like this ever.
So from what I understood, it's basically going to be a modular way of entering the blend network, basically. So you're
you get to like
be able
automatically tune the security and efficiency of the anonymity set of the network and provide people an on-ramping experience that doesn't require them to like find a way to fund their node before they can send any transaction. You can just mine your first transaction.
I'm looking forward to the blog, so I'll be waiting for that.
But how do we get the average pump fund trader into logos? I know privacy as a narrative is technically having its best year ever in a way, because we had the likes of ZEC and more talks about Monero. There's other privacy by default chains coming out and so on and so forth. So the idea of privacy again is making a comeback, but how do we make it stick, and how do we bring the next set of users? Because we've also had the likes of Session in the podcast, which is basically a decentralized version of Telegram, but they're relying on donations at the moment, because it's difficult to help a project that has real utility scale without taking into account that, hey, you will need the average trader that has degeneracy written on his forehead to be part of your network at one point, basically. I mean, that's
you need trades.
how the market has...
You need
exactly.
things to move for it to be sustainable. People need to use it.
Exactly. So how do we bring them in?
I don't have the solution to that, but I have ideas. One is you make something that can be used, so it's efficient enough such that you can build applications like this. And if you can provide extra things that others can't, such as a fully private transaction lifecycle that doesn't require you to use Telegram to negotiate your multi-sig transaction. You have things like actual private atomic swaps. You have a developer experience that is second to none, that is unified in the entire ecosystem. So like how you interact with your storage node is similar to how you interact with the messaging, which is similar to how you interact with blockchain. Like because we've been able to merge these things, we can provide a seamless developer experience for building the entire application stack, all within the same ecosystem. So people can actually build applications that are fully integrated with all of the things you need to do, whether it's chatting, sending storage, like long-term storage, leveraging any type of agreement or consensus, token swaps, whatever, all within the same wallet, all within the same thing. So like the developer experience and the eventual application experience of these things should be so much better. That's where you want to build it. And that's my hope, is that we're not only providing this like really solid infrastructure that gives you the entire transaction lifecycle with privacy, but the developer experience I'm building on top of it is also stupidly simple. And because it's all together, you don't have to do this like weird glue code and figuring out how do I leverage Arweave with the Ethereum stack, and sometimes I want to use Solana from swaps because I want to use this thing over here. Like this like weird complexity thing you do as a developer on figuring out how to match these things together to then serve your users, gone, hopefully, right? And I think that's where you get them. You provide good infrastructure, you provide real guarantees, you give people options on when to disclose information appropriately, and then you make it easy for them.
Okay, so let's say you guys lead the way for basically this adoption of privacy, and we build a whole ecosystem around it, and like similar to what we have already in the non-private blockchains. And then the EU says, you know what, we're gonna block everything that's related to privacy. If you ever deposit money that can be tied to a private platform, you're gonna go to jail for 10 years as a user. And then some other countries follow, like the Balkans. What can we do realistically? Because I don't want to go like into these things and regulations, but I know they attacked Monero just recently, and I think it got delisted by basically every single major exchange. So do you think there's not enough being done when it comes to like talking to policymakers, talking to people in power, and basically convincing them that the way that some countries are approaching these regulations and privacy specifically is wrong?
I don't know how to handle politics. It's very important because those types of decisions impact so many people. And even if the technology works, if it's effectively useless because it's so hard to use because of the consequences of using it, then it's really hard, right? You don't get adoption because no one uses it because they're scared. That's not a problem that we can fix by building technology. That's a problem we fix by talking to people, talking to your local politicians. Hopefully, when things aren't being done correctly in one jurisdiction, the other jurisdictions call them out and shame them. Because that's really the only way we've seen effective for getting people to stop doing things is by calling it out and shaming them and ostracizing them in some way, shape, or form. But that requires like global coordination and for people to care. And for us who are building this stuff to like show that it's good for people, so that people ask for it and they go talk to their own local jurisdictions and let them know what their preferences are and why they care. And if you don't have that grassroots movement of people complaining, demanding better, then you don't get the top level changes in politics. And so like you need to go out and talk to people. Everyone does. But in order to do that, you need to tell them why they want this type of stuff and what it means to them. And then show them solutions that actually do something for them that makes meaningful changes in their lives. They go talk to it and demand better. Because like I don't see that change happening unless you actually impact people's lives.
Yeah, well, very often in the show we've had marketers who are PR trained basically, and they talk what they know in a way. And very rarely we have people that know what they talk. So, Dr. Corey Petty, thank you so much for
Thank you very much.
joining
I
us
appreciate
today.
that.
It has been a very eye-opening episode, and I really wish we could have gone longer because there is a lot that we can talk about. There are a lot of rabbit holes that we could get into.
They're everywhere and they're so fascinating. There's so many interesting
Exactly.
problems. Like it's
yeah, it's the most interesting industry in the world. It's very chaotic. Sometimes I wish I hadn't joined, but we're here to, as you said, to build asshole-resistant technologies. So, cheers to that, basically.
Thank you for having me. Really, really great.